after about a year and a half at the job, I said, who's the best sign painter in Idaho Falls? In those days, everything was done by a sign painter. Like today, it's all computers. That didn't exist in those days. It had to be done by hand. But there were 5 of them, 5 sign companies. And I said the best one was a guy by the name of LaVere Hutchings. By far the best. You could just tell. He just was more sophisticated. He did the best work. This was a very gifted painter and a very gifted artist. So I went to him. And I introduced myself. I had a hard time talking, so he knew that I stuttered. I said, I am prepared to come to work for you. I'll work for free. I will clean your brushes. I'll sweep out your shop. I'll do anything you ask me to do. I'll do it free. I'll work in the summertime, free. After school, except during boxing season, free. So you have nothing to lose. So he said, I'm going to take you on. Well, he was a man that was gifted at painting. His personality was next to zero. And he was very grumpy and very seldom smiled. So it wasn't easy. But could he paint? He knew what brushes to use. He knew what brands of paint. He knew what types of materials to use. And I just memorized him. Literally memorized him. I said to myself, can you believe how lucky I am? I'm able to go learn from perhaps the best sign painter in the state of Idaho, and it costs me $0. I don't have to pay him a penny. And I'm getting all this education free. That's how I looked at it. Well, he looked at it, I got a pretty good deal here. Doesn't cost me anything. Well, we got along good. I learned how to use ladders, scaffolds. I learned how to do wall signs. I learned how to transfer a small piece of artwork into a much larger dimension, like a huge wall sign. You do a little drawing first, then you got to expand it. How do you do that? I learned all those arts. And how to use a pounce wheel, everything. And so he told me, he says, by the way, he had a very, very beautiful wife. She was a nurse. And I've often wondered, well, how did she ever hook up with him? Well, I can understand. He was so gifted. Well, he says, I'm going on a week vacation. I want you to watch the shop for me. And this was in the fall of the year. So while working, in comes a guy named Don Piper. He had the biggest truck stop on the North Idaho Falls Highway on its way to Butte, Montana. And so he said to me, he said, I need a banner. In fact, I need 2 banners. He told me what he needs. He said, I got to have them. I got to have them now. And I want you to paint them for me. Can you paint them for me? I said, yes, I can do it. So I painted these signs for him per his desire. He came to pick them up. He said, my gosh, you're good at this. You have a real talent, a real gift. How much? Well, I didn't have a clue how much. He said, I want to pay you right now. Well, I don't know how much to charge on this, but so I rattled. I said, well, how much do I charge to do these signs around the school, for the school dances and campaign posters for guys running for president of the class here and class there and so on. So I gave him a price. Well, when Hutch came back, I was so excited. I thought, he might someday want me to be his partner. I'd like to be his partner. I think we could go a long, long ways together. And I'd be willing to work with him. Even though he is grumpy, I'd be willing to work with him. So I couldn't wait to show him what I'd done. Now, when I handed him the check, he looked at that check, and he literally flew into a rage. He says, you mean to tell me that you did those 2 posters or banners for this price? I said, yes. He said, you have just ruined a customer. From now on, he's going to want that same price for future work. And he said, you're fired. And I just went from top to bottom in an instant. I remember it was a very cold evening. Now, in order to get home, which was 5 miles out of town, my folks would never come and get me. When I finished that day's work, it was my job to get home. I can't recall once coming to get me. They were tough. You got to grow up and be a man and figure out how to get around on your own, Doug. Well, I remember going to the highway, which I was very good at, and I was hitchhiking. And I remember as I was walking that highway, I had tears running down my face, and then it just hit me, I'm going to turn this into an advantage to me. I'm going to do big signs, and I'm not going to do little signs. I'm going to do big signs. And Hutch will wish that he had never fired me, and I'm going to do it.